Hey everyone, welcome to another Beers FPL. Enjoying the sunshine today. I think everybody, hopefully, it'll be sunny where you are as well. Glasgow is unseasonably sunny, so quite happy with that. And yeah, we'll probably just ask if you're not followed us yet on Twitter. You can give us a wee follow on @Beers FPL. That's @Beers FPL.
And while you're on the YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Always much appreciated.
Yeah, and heads up with some comments, some chat. Let us know how you're getting on. Been quite a good season, quite exciting season. So, quite a lot to talk about this week. Going into the big double game week, probably the biggest double game week of the season, I would say. But how did you get on last week? Last game week, not last week, because international break.
No, that's
I've
weird.
had a period of football, you know.
Yeah, that's weird even calling it last week because it feels ages ago now. Like I seem to switch off during international break because I'm so obsessed with FPL. Like I didn't even know Scotland were playing Spain the other night, and I was out and I came back in and I seen everyone tweeting about it, and I was like, "Geez, we've beat Spain in an actual international game, and it's not a friendly."
That was a great game. I'm just really annoyed at myself that I didn't bet on McTominay to score, which is probably the most obvious bet I've on. I didn't do it. So, but yeah, it was.
Well, we've had a 2-week break, which has actually been quite good because it's been quite intense recently trying to navigate like wild card and what to do and thinking about far in the future. So a wee break, a wee breather. Not much to say about game week 28. It was the blank game week. I got 66 points, and I think I said to you before, it's pretty much like if you captain Saka, you done well. If you didn't captain Saka, you probably didn't do so well because there wasn't many high-scoring players in that game week. So it really came down to that, came down to the wire who I was going to captain, Saka or Kane. Glad I made the right pick. Still kept Martinelli, and I got a green arrow as well. My rank jumped into just under the top 1K, which is the highest rank I've had all season.
I've got to say, dude, that's got to be a plod for me, man. I like I say, there's not many that could be up that high. Like I genuinely think you should be really proud of yourself for how well you've done, and long may it continue, because even in the days of where it wasn't, 11 million players, a top 1,000 is pretty much unheard of. So if you push that, and that push you the top 0.0001% or something ridiculous like that. So yeah, well done, mate. It's great. Like it's been amazing. It's a bit of a pain for me because obviously I like trying to beat you, but it's been fun to see you doing well, and yeah, like long may it continue.
Yeah, so that was the highlight, I guess, of the last game week is just getting a highest rank. It's been going well into it, from the World Cup onwards, a couple of reds there. I really did think I was going to fall away because it's hard these weeks getting these little things right, but just a little bit of luck and the things go my way. So yeah, cheers. Hopefully, my goal now I think is to finish in the top 1K with only 10 game weeks to go, 2 chips left to play. I feel like I'm feeling quite comfortable in my mini league, so I'm just going to try and focus on the rank sort of situation. So yeah, I think I've got a realistic goal now. I want to stay inside the top 1K. I'd be disappointed if I drop down into the outside the top 5K. So that's the end of the season. It's got to be in the top 5K, I think.
I'd like it if we could go and maybe find some kind of. I'll try and look if we can find software or something where we could plot the graph of your start of the season, all the way down to like the way it's just continuously dropped. It would be great to see and plot that, and like the little kind of bounces back up and stuff where you get the reds. But yeah, man, it's been a pretty impressive season for you. Like I'm not going to lie. I mean, I've pretty much you've blown me out of the water. And I'm having a fairly decent season, so it's quite impressive to see. So yeah, keep it going. Yeah. So
your team,
yeah, a lot of green arrows for me as well. Got quite chuffed with. Decided to play my wild card. Put a few switches in. Yeah, went Saka captain. That was absolutely glorious. Like such an enjoyable game. Watching that come in. And yeah, I think the team did quite well. I've kind of set it up for this week going into the double game week, and I think I've got about 13 double game week players. So it should be good for the old, or 12, I think it is, but good for the old bench boost. But looking forward to seeing how this week pans out in terms of keeping pushing. I'm doing quite well in my mini leagues. I'm chasing down one of the guys that had I think he had about 230 points on me. And I'm chasing him right down, so quite happy. I think I've got it down to 60 points. lost a wee bit of ground when I didn't wildcard before the last double game week, but I'm quite comfortable with that. So, yeah, doing well. Greens, like me and you, both greens since, turn of the year, greens all the way. So,
I
I
think
mean, my rank,
you're on your highest rank as well, season-wise,
yeah.
by quite a distance. I think your highest, these greens have just really got you there now. So, like, just outside the top 250k. So you can easily creep up even further.
I
Like,
mean, I would be happy with top 100k. You're talking about 1k. I'm talking about top 100. But see, when you actually think about the sheer numbers involved, to even be in that position from 11 million players is still pretty impressive. So quite happy. And like I say, normally I tend to tail off at the end of the season. So I'm glad that I'm actually doing it in reverse, where I'm actually coming up quite strongly at the end of the season. So I'm hoping I can maintain that push.
Yeah, it's been good since the World Cup.
Okay, so let's bring ourselves forward to this week, which is an interesting double game week. I think everybody's fairly set up for it. There's a few, I know you have been having a bit of a, existential crisis over it, thinking about your permutations and what can happen and stuff. So there's a few points I want to talk about just very quickly before we go into the kind of meat and bones of it, mainly attributing to like injuries. So the first one, obviously, we should talk about is Rashford. I'm assuming both of us are going to have him roughly in about our captaincy picks. What's your thoughts on Rashford? I mean, I know we're obviously waiting on more news tomorrow, but we're recording this on Thursday night, by the way, so you guys know. What are you thinking? Are you, are we quite, even though he seems like he's yellowed, is it a 75%? So are we quite happy, or does it give you a little bit of doubt?
I don't think there's any doubt there about, like, I wouldn't be transferring him out or anything, and I'm pretty set on playing my bench boost. So he's going to be in my squad regardless. So I just think it will be find out from the presser tomorrow. If there's confidence that he's going to play both games, then he's a really, really good captain shout. He's going to be the most captain player, I think, regardless. So I think that's it for me. It's just like wait and see if he's going to be fit or not, and then whether he's going to be a captain choice or not. If he's not going to be fit, or there's a question mark over the first game, then it opens up the captaincy debate a bit more. I think Rashford's such a good shout, but I think I think everybody owns him that is probably going to watch that kind of stuff or follow us on Twitter. So there's not really a discussion to be had about, are you bringing him in on a wild card? Are you bringing him in to play him or whatever? If you're not on a bench boost and he's not going to be fit, I would still play him just for that second game if he was maybe going to miss the first one. He's so explosive. So yeah, I think it's just wait and see with him. I want him to be fit. I'm edging away from captaining him though, but I guess we'll talk about captains. But I think we'll just be wait and see what they say tomorrow. You've got to play him.
I think it's hard because it's one of those things that coming back from international week, you never really know how much emphasis to put on these kind of little niggles after international week. I always feel like sometimes they do it because they don't really want, and not that I'm saying doubting Rashford's commitment to England or anything like that, but I feel like maybe something's come up and it's just one of the ones where you say, oh, I've got a wee bit of a niggle and I can't play, because I'm assuming he would obviously want to play every game for England, but it's one of those ones where how much do you trust coming back off an international break where there's a niggle just before the internationals? It just always feels a wee bit suspicious. So I'm confident and hoping that he'll play both games. It does give me a little bit of a doubt though for the old captaincy pick because obviously it would have been a no-brainer if he wasn't on the 75%, but it's a bit of a worry. That brings us neatly on to my second discussion, which is the old Erling Haaland. I don't think he played at all in the Norway games, and it looks like he's struggling. He wasn't pictured in training today, which is obviously a big indicator that he might not play another 75%er. But what do you think? What the options are you thinking? I mean, obviously it's not a big deal for us because both of us don't have him, but it would have been a bit of a pain if he was playing and we didn't. But what are you thinking?
Well, selling him, I was last week. I was always worried about not owning him this week because even at home to Liverpool, that's still a spicy fixture for him. He can score a hat trick. So with this news, I'm kind of like, I hope he's not fit, just because then I don't need to worry about anybody in my mini leagues or whatever that I've still got him. However, I don't know, man. I feel like this could be a little bit of Pep mind games. Like, can you imagine your Klopp when you're preparing for this game? Preparing for Man City away with Haaland and without Haaland's a completely different thing. You've got to, without Haaland, they play so different. So, like, Klopp or Pep could just be like, just take a day and do some of your own like personal training. Let's just wind them up and make everyone think that you're still injured, and then the team sheet comes out and boom, he's playing and he scores a hat trick. So I don't know what will happen there. It's hard to call, but I think if I was an owner at the moment, I would hang on to him just because he's not been. There'll be a pressure tomorrow, obviously, so we'll see what Pep says, and I still don't know if I would trust what he says. But I think if I was an owner, I would still hold him and play him and see what happens, because if he plays, you're possibly going to get some points. There's been a few people have been thinking about bringing him back in already. They sold him last week, and then he scored like 20 goals in 2 games in Europe, didn't he? Like against Burnley. So everyone's like, "Oh, should we bring him back in?" Some people were talking about bringing him back in early. I wouldn't be doing that with this hanging over. If you've got him, cool, good. But I wouldn't be bringing him back in. I'm glad we got him out already. It would have been a headache.
I think he's definitely pet main games. I think again it's that international thing. I think he's he decided he's probably needing a break. And again, not down his commitment to his country, but I feel like the player that he is, he's maybe had a wee niggle just before the international break. He decided this could be the ideal spot to have a 2-week rest. Taking his wee 2-week rest, and now he's going to go into this Liverpool game, as you say, Pep's sort of like sneaky, hidden. I mean, even if he doesn't start, I've got a feeling he'll come off the bench anyway. He will probably play this game. Despite what most people assume, that like you say, it's probably been set up for him to not, Pep just send him away for a wee while to try and get a wee bit of mind games over Liverpool. But yeah, I think he will play, and if he does play, I think against that Liverpool defence, you would probably say that. I mean, he didn't do it the last time, but I still think he's a good shout. So yeah, he's definitely. Both players. Don't get me wrong, they probably both end up not playing, but I've got a feeling it's international mind games. Just the two of them have decided to maybe had a wee niggle, didn't really want to risk it in the international games, and now we'll come back fully fit and ready to go. So we had a wee chat before this about some of the interesting discussions that are floating about the old FPL sphere. And maybe start off with a wee bit of chat about Arsenal. So a lot of discussion maybe around selling or keeping Arsenal assets. I did have a twinge about this just before we go into it. I'm wondering, would selling Martinelli for somebody else be doable? But the recent sort of like push in form for Martinelli's kind of made me second guess it. So what's your thoughts? Is it one of those things that people are maybe thinking too far ahead, or are they just trying to squeeze in double game week players? What's your thoughts?
It's hard. I think I must be in the same position as everyone else, where like I've got 2 midfielders and 1 defender. So I've got Saka, Martinelli, and Zinchenko. I don't really want to sell any of them, to be honest, but the double game week fever, I'm bad for it, and I really want to maximise it. I wouldn't sell Saka at all. I just think his form is so blistering. He's on the penalties. I'm seeing people sell him. Like, I've just got this up here. Like, so that's 71,000 people have sold him. So holding on to him is definitely going to be a benefit if people are selling him and he does score or something. Martinelli, I've got him, and I think I'm going to sell him for somebody like a Maddison or a Bruno or whoever, purely just because there's more minutes risk going forward. In Arsenal's fixtures, they do get a bit tougher now. I know the form's been insane. So once we get through this, such a nice fixture leads. They've got Liverpool, West Ham, and then there's still Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, and Brighton all to come. So I think the triple up, I'm not as fussed about keeping right now. I feel like I'm happy to jump off 1 or 2 of them for a little bit, and then see if the FOMO comes back, jump back on and get your triple up. I don't know. I feel like it's okay to sell some of them, but not all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, you're right. The 3 to the 2 is fine, I think, but I don't think those fixtures are that bad. And you're talking 4 game weeks before they play Man City away, which is arguably the toughest game. And ideally, it probably would benefit you not to have 3 Arsenal players get into that Man City game, but you still have 4 weeks to shed the players you need to shed. So I I think they would take points off Leeds easily. They're going to take points off Liverpool easily. I don't think Liverpool are in any great shakes at the minute, despite what everybody's saying about Salah. I think West Ham could be a tough game, but it's not a horrible game. And then Southampton at home, I mean, I'd be targeting that any day of the week. So yeah, I think it's a good point. I think if it was up to me, yeah, I probably will drop 3-2, and then maybe look to getting 3 back in possibly before Southampton and then transferring out. So that would be like my 2 or 3 transfers for those weeks would be to take one in, bring them back out, and then but we'll see. It's fluid at the minute for me. I'm waiting to see how this weekend goes. I feel if I get a good score this weekend, it gives me a little bit more room to play with. So hopefully that'll be sorted. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. So the next one,
the only thing I'm going to add there just was that Arsenal play in 32. Game week 32 is the blank game week where like Brighton blank, Chelsea blank, Man United blank. So a lot of us are going to be playing free hit in 32. I think the consensus is either to play it in 32 with a blank one, or 34 is going to be the next double game week, or kind of mini double game week. So I feel like if you're not playing free hit in 32, then that's going to edge you towards wanting to keep these assets, because when it comes to here and everyone's like, oh, I need the free hit, you've got your 2 or 3 good Arsenal players ready for a really tasty fixture. So that's something that's going to influence my decision, I think, whenever I make my transfers this week. If I want to transfer out Martinelli or Zinchenko because I'm going to keep Saka, I'm going to need to really think about what I'm going to do with my free hit. Am I going to play it in 32 or 34? I think that will be a big decision. So a lot of people really played their free hit, so I don't need to think about that, but it's something worth thinking about.
It's definitely worth one of those things we have to look at both those game weeks and maybe take a chance to think that your planning should be around that. But again, it's going to be done by team to team basis. So I suppose you have a look and see what you think. I'm kind of wary of dropping Martinelli. Like, I think form-wise, he's really stepped in over the past couple of game weeks, but I'd much rather have Saka over Martinelli any day of the week. So it's one of the ones where, he's probably going to be a necessary sacrifice. So brings us neatly on to Man United. I think we've just discussed Rashford and the kind of worries around him being and stuff, but what's your thoughts on the old Bruno F, the whiniest player in the league, apparently? The man that's been slaughtered for his, the way he was acting in a recent game.
I know.
I like him as a player. He's definitely come on leaps and bounds since Cristiano's, left, which is probably always going to be a benefit to him, and I'm really glad it happened. I think that's part of the reason that Man United have such a resurgence is they got rid of Ronaldo, and I think it's really benefited him. So I think he is a great player, and I really do like him, and I think going forward he's decent. But do you think he is essential? Do you think that you would be getting him in? What's your thoughts?
I definitely don't think he's essential. Obviously, everybody's team's different, but for me, I've been toying between sort of Fernandes or Maddison. If you can get both, brilliant. They're both going to get good points this week, I think. For me, I just don't feel he's essential because, especially for this week, I feel like these are 2 kind of difficult fixtures for Man United. Newcastle away, they're hard to break down. Fair enough, they don't score many goals, so maybe Man United defenders are more on the radar. And then Brentford at home. Brentford the same, their away form is exceptional, especially against the big teams, so that's not going to be easy either. So as much as Fernandes is on penalties, he's on form, he's getting points, I don't know, I'm quite happy to go with just Rashford. There's no Casemiro as well. Does that mean that Bruno doesn't have as much freedom? I know there'll be stats to show X or Y or whatever. So that's just in my head, and he's played so many minutes recently. If you look at his Man United minutes plus his 2 Portugal games, he played nearly 180. So there's just something about it for me, and the price as well. I feel like a lot of people are in a similar boat to me. If you were to take out someone like a Martinelli and keep your Saka, and then you've got 2 Brighton assets and you've got Rashford, then the price of Bruno is 9.6. So that's taken up a lot of your budget that you've probably still got left in the bank to go back from Tony to Haaland, or Watkins to Haaland, or Havertz to Haaland next week or whatever. So it kind of messes up with your team structure a bit. So for me, I feel like my mind's almost made up on him. I understand why people are going for him. But it's also the blank in 32 as well that's putting me off, because I feel like I want to have that option come game week 32 or approaching it, that I can navigate it with free hits or with free transfers, or play my free hit instead of getting towards game week 32 and realising I've got 2 or 3 Man United I've got 2 Chelsea, I've got this, I've got that, and I have to play it. So I feel like it depends what your strategy is as well. Just like what we said with Arsenal, what you're doing in game week 32 is something you really need to think about, whether you buy Bruno or not. And for me, I'm against it. I would rather go with somebody like Maddison, who's got a nice fixture in 32, and then just protect yourself going forward. And I feel like if Bruno does bang this week, like you can figure something out. We can move players around, bring him in for 30, 31, get him out for 32. There's that option as well. But for me, he's not essential this week.
I mean, I think like if you're covered anyway, Rashford, I don't necessarily think that, you know, it's that big a problem. I think if you've already got one of their better attacking players, like you say, Newcastle away is not an easy fixture. Man United getting into that game, you know, it could go either way. Man United could take the points. They could be a draw. You're not really expecting too much. I actually think it's going to be quite a tight game. Likely be sort of low scoring. I don't really see that being the big one. Brentford at home's another one. You know, Brentford aren't really like consistent for shipping goals. So I don't know. I'm not. I'm quite happy just having Rashford covering that bet. I don't think I need to. He's one of the ones that I'd like to have him, but I'm not overly bored if I don't, to be honest. I've got Rashford to cover it. Hopefully, if he plays both games, you know, it's fairly decent. But yeah, it's one of the ones where I'm not rushing him in, I don't think.
Yeah, same. I'd prefer Maddison. That's my pick for that spot.
Cool. Speaking of Maddison, he is another one that I've got a little bit of conundrum for. How do you square up the old Maddison Barnes versus Barnes debate, the age-old conundrum that that we've been faced with? I watched Maddison in that England game. He looked okay. He didn't look amazing. Leicester are a bit of a weird team at the minute. Their form was at like, I can't even remember. It's at one point in sort of 4 games or something ridiculous. I'm not overly enamoured with 1 and 5 actually. I'm not overly enamoured with them. Barnes I really like. He's an explosive player, but I think if you're going to be putting money anywhere on that team, it's got to be the man himself. You know, your favourite, the old James Mad.
Yep, gets my vote every time, I think, just because of the game week 9 heroics captain, and I loved it. It was great. So I feel like there's a romantic pick in there. But, right, so like you're saying, they've been pumped recently. 1 point in 5. But look, they played Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Brentford. And a rejuvenated Southampton who've been playing a bit better recently. And then you look at the fixtures coming up. We've probably discussed this whenever we were talking about some picks recently. Palace, Villa, Bournemouth, Wolves, Leeds, Everton, Fulham. Well, maybe take Fulham out of that. But that's all teams that are in the relegation scrap. And just even hearing Brendan talk the other day about Maddison getting his first start for England, I just feel he's filling him with confidence to keep basically putting the pressure on him in a good way, keep them in the Premier League. That's me. I would say why I would pick Maddison over Barnes. Like Maddison's going to be their man between now and the end of the season, whether it works or not. But I think he is.
Just to be devil's advocate, I mean, I'm looking at those fixtures there, and they are not greens, man. Like Palace with a new manager bounce, right? And I know it's old boy, so it's not exactly a massive new manager bounce. Aston Villa, I reckon I'm going to put my money on it now. Aston Villa are going to pump Leicester, right? And I'm saying it now. It's definitely happening. Bournemouth are another tough fixture, man. You've just had like a few really good results. So those aren't easy results, but I think Maddison is just a no-brainer. I mean, he's a talisman player. Even when he don't play well, he tends to get points. You know, you really do it. Like you say, you fancy him up into the Man City game, and then if you're, you know, benching him there, you can push on it. I fancy them against Wolves. I definitely fancy them against Leeds. Everton are no great shakes, but yeah, maybe Fulham would be a bridge too far. So you're hoping that it's that they are such a streaky team. So you're hoping that they're coming into the positive streak now, and they can carry that forward. But Palace will be a tough game. I think that'll be the one I watch with interest, because if they do Palace and they do Palace convincingly, then I think I'll feel a bit more comfortable. But I would just be mildly nervous that their form carries through and they maybe have a wee bit of a squeaky game against, you know, Palace. Yeah, I'll go with you, mate. Like you, I'm not doubting you anymore after.
I want to point this out again. We had a conversation probably around game week 6 when I was about to play my wild card in game week 7 and pick Maddison, and there was a lot of scepticalness about it, and I was maybe just taking a bit of a risk. Then he got me a goal against Tottenham, then an 18-pointer, 36 as a captain against Forest. Admittedly, the form went there, but he was a short-term pick. So I think
we go to that Bournemouth game. I think that's when I put him in my team, and that's how he
Probably
started getting
and
2-0.
hundreds of thousands of people would have done the same. So I feel like I'm hoping for a bit of history repeating myself, like just a little bit of short term. If he delivers, cool. If he delivers in good fashion, I'll keep a hold of him for this.
Listen, man, he's in my team, so I'm on your boat.
So he
I
is.
fully agree.
I've already got him. Coming into mine.
I'm just playing devil's advocate with the fixtures. I just mildly worry. I genuinely do. I think Villa will beat them, but if Villa beat them, it'll be a 4-2 or a 3-2. I can't imagine betting else. So he's more than capable of getting points even in games that are defeats. So totally happy with that. Barnes I like as a player, but I think he's a very kind of on form player, and you really need to get him when he's starting his form streak, and he's not really hit that ground, I don't think, yet. So I imagine it'll be, well, saying that, what did he get? 7 points against Brentford? Maybe, I don't know. I still think Barnes is your player. He takes the free kicks. Does he not take corners as well? He's likely to get you the goals. He's likely to get you assists. Barnes probably on a similar level, but doesn't take the set pieces. So, yeah, only one answer from me.
Robbie Madders.
That's it. No matters. Right, next question. Go a little bit. Brighton assets. What's your thoughts? I think most of us will have, a combination of Mitoma, March, and Estupinan. A few people will have McAllister. I can't imagine many will have Veltman. But what's your thoughts? I like the look of Ferguson. I think he's definitely creeping in a little bit into my thoughts, and he's a decent player. So, what are you thinking?
I think Brighton from this week, it's probably worth having the triple up and just set and forget and keep them unless anything happens with injuries, because they've got doubles. They've got more doubles coming up. So obviously they've got quite a tasty double this week. They double in 34, both games at home to Wolves and Man United that you'd feel that they could get some points. They've got a Newcastle and Man City game to slot in here. Admittedly, not great fixtures, but if you want extra fixtures, then it's good. They're kind. What I'm kind of, well, if we talk about Mitoma, March and McAllister, if I was on wildcard or free hit now or had the choice, I feel like I would go with McAllister in March, just because reading up a lot more about Mitoma's underlying stats, he seems to be playing a lot wider. He's not having as many shots in the box. He's not playing as many key passes as he was sort of during this period here. After the one
13-6-6.
Yeah, still getting the points, but I feel if I was to be picking from fresh now, I'd be looking at March has been getting loads of shots in the box. McAllister's playing in that 10 position. He's shooting loads. He's on the penalties. And they're both lower on. You look at Mitoma being 23, or you could have two players that are under 10%. That just seems to me that's the two that you want. So if I was picking two midfielders right now, I would go with March and McAllister. I own McAllister and Mitoma, and I'm just going to stick with that and just have it. Esputinan's a difficult one. So I had him and I sold him last game week for Chilwell. Chilwell got me a fantastic 1 point. But I was just for the fact that Sputinan was blanking. I knew I was going to get Chilwell this week, so I done it, and to give myself the opportunity now to think I can bring him back if I want. Obviously, he's played 2 games in Australia. I think he only got enough playing yesterday, so there's a little bit of a tight time scale with him getting back to the UK and then playing on Saturday, I believe, in the first. So a lot of people are worried about his minutes. If there was no minutes worry, I'd be like 100% I want to get him. But I'm kind of holding off and looking at somebody else, because even imagine he doesn't play here and they've got that really tasty fixture against Bournemouth. They've then got Spurs, Chelsea, and a blank. So
yeah,
I'm not.
That's what worries me. That's what worries me. That 30 to 32 period, a 3-game week period where, like, don't get me wrong, Spurs on any great shakes at the minute, and Chelsea, Potter, my favourite Potter, is just not. They're not firing distinctly well at the minute. But yeah, that's my only worry. I think bringing in players is good for the short term and it's good for the long term, but medium term, that kind of 3-week window, 30 to 32 is a bit of a worry.
Yeah, I feel like if you've got a triple up on them already, like Mitoma, March, and Esputinang, then you're set up. Just see what happens with him playing. Whereas if you're maybe like myself and you've not got a Brighton defender, I'm feeling a bit of FOMO about it. I'm like, I feel like there's potential for him to get 2 clean sheets there, even though they're playing Brentford. Brentford don't score tons, and it's at home, so I'm like, that's a tasty fixture. So even in my head, I'm like, is Lewis Dunk an option? If you're worried about Esputinang and maybe in the press conference tomorrow we might not get any concrete news about him, so you're like left in limbo. Dunk's a good option. So personally, I think I'm just going to bite the bullet and just go without them and hope that they don't keep a clean sheet in both games, or they maybe only keep one. And I'm going to look at someone else like Shaw or even Chelsea. Not Chelsea defender, I don't know. Just spitballing now, but yeah, he's going to be a great asset to have if they had better fixtures. But just now, I'm worried about it. But you've got to have two Brighton midfielders. That's the essential. Mitoma, Marks, McCann, two of them. Got to have them.
It makes sense. I think for me, the two midfielders is a great shout. Defenders, a bit of a worry. Just getting into a bit of a weird sort of game week period. But yeah, I do like the look of Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're looking for a budget striker, you're not going to go wrong. I mean, I fancy that we scored against Brentford. I definitely fancy that we scored against Bournemouth, and I 100% fancy that we scored against Spurs. So, he is a decent wee option. Again, the worry is, is he a minutes risk at the minute?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's a tasty little pick. I'm waiting for him to just take off. It's not happened yet, but I've got a feeling that if he nods a couple in, he could be a decent differential.
I do understand why people are going from. Obviously, they've got more games coming up. The minutes are a risk, but it's like, see if you're a player that's really wanting to get Salah in right now, but you're wanting to keep enough budget to be able to get Haaland back, and you don't really want to sell Kane. You could be going down to him, like 4.6 million, and that's the kind of, you need to have a budget striker if you're going to go for a premium down the line of, say, Haaland, keep Kane, and then get Salah. So he'll come in handy for some people's strategies, but to me, it's just too much of a minutes worry. I just want somebody that's going to play more minutes. He is good, though.
Cool. So that brings us on to one of their opponents, which the old Brentford, and Ivan Toney, who got his England call up, and he play? I think he played the second game. Quite interesting. We obviously love him. I think he's a great player, one of the better strikers in the league. But we have slight risk problem with him. You've got that yellow card hanging over him. You've also got the current threat about this whole gambling situation. So what do you think? Are you nervous about it? Are you looking elsewhere? Should we be looking elsewhere? Is it a risk? What's the thoughts?
I am looking elsewhere. I wasn't planning on it. My whole plan for this game week was to only be taking out single game week players like Zinchenko, like Martinelli. And now I'm thinking about if I fancy a wee spicy -4, I don't mind taking him out, because the point is I was going to sell him in 30 anyway. The plan is always Toney to Haaland, get Haaland back in for 30. And if I look at that on paper, obviously, Brighton away, Man United away, two really, really tough teams that keep clean sheets. I know Toney he links up well, he can provide assists, his penalties are unreal, he takes free kicks. There's goals there for him. But you know what he's like. He could just have a dodgy tackle, and that's him booked in the first game. And then he's suspended for the Man United and the Newcastle games. So there'll be a two-game suspension. So it's going to come down to the deadline for me. I'm very tempted to ship him out and go for somebody like Ings, maybe. Havertz is a shout. João Felix. The Brennan Johnson from Forest is getting brought in for a cheap option as well. Because I think if I was to take that punt, if you're feeling spicy, right, take your -4 if you have to, and then see next week. I was going to be transferring him out for Haaland anyway, so if whoever I bring in this week, like an Ings or something, doesn't work out, ship them out for Haaland. If they do work out and I want to keep them, then I've got Watkins and I can move him onto Haaland. A lot of people have got Havertz. It's the same sort of scenario. Everyone seems to be in that. You've got Toney, Kane, plus somebody else. So I just don't think he's going to get a big haul, even if he doesn't get booked.
What's the risk then? I mean, if you look at the idea that Toney takes penalties, tends to score against most teams. I mean, I don't think there's any team that he doesn't score against. He plays quite well. Mm-hmm. Say he doesn't get that yellow card and he gets a penalty against Man United, he scores a goal against Brighton. Suddenly, are you left with egg in your face, or are you bothered about that? Do you really just think that you're better off without him generally, and that it's worth the risk of not having him?
It's a coin toss, I think, for 1 week and a 1 week punt, just because, like I'm saying, I'm planning on getting rid of him next week anyway. If he doesn't get booked, he's my transfer out. So it's like, need to weigh up, is it worth taking a hit and hoping that he gets booked in that first game, or plays both games in blank, so maybe only scores one goal, for a player that you think might get a return in both games. That's the hard part. It's trying to find someone that fits that. Like, there's plenty of midfielders that you would go for. Like, I would love to go for like Bowen or Ben Rama, a third Brighton midfielder like Fernandez or whatever as well. The striking options are a bit risky. Like, Ings could share some minutes with Skamaka. Havertz is flagged. João Felix hasn't been amazing, even though Chelsea have got 2 home fixtures. Brennan Johnson always looks quite tasty, but he plays for Nottingham Forest, so there's Isak as well.
I like Isak or Brennan Johnson. I think Forest have a fairly decent, Wolves at home, Leeds away. It's tasty enough. I mean, I can see the appeal, but again, I didn't realise he had 50% chance of playing. That's put a bit of span in the works. But I've heard Awoniyi is back, but I'm not 100% convinced by Awoniyi as a player at the minute. He's okay. He scores the goals, but you really want it to be somebody prolific like Johnson. So if I was going to go Notts Forest, it would be Johnson all the way. Ings is interesting, but surely Bowen's the better, striker threat for West Ham. So what's I can sort of see the thinking behind it, but I don't know if that entices me all that much.
A punt.
Isak's the one I like. I think Isak, that game just before the break, he was amazing and he played really well. So I'm a big fan. I think he's very capable of scoring against Man United and 100% capable of scoring against West Ham. So it's just whether Newcastle have turned the corner in terms of being a bit more creative, which I'm not really convinced by. So yeah, it's a tough one, and there is options there.
What about the bold Dom Solanke?
I ain't touching him, mate. You can go for it.
You hate him, don't you?
I don't hate him. He's just not my type of player. I think he's, when he's on form and he's capable. If I was going to pick anybody for Bournemouth, it would be Phil Bill, man, big Phil Bill. He's the one that's getting the returns, so that would be it. I don't think Solanke's been shown anything interesting. So yeah, I am probably going to run with Tony. Like, I've got a few files to put out of my team that I probably need to deal with first. So just quickly before the end, bring me on to Kane. What's your thoughts? Are you quite happy with him? I've seen we're talking about a few people selling him and stuff.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that he's been sold so much. A lot of people he's the most sold out striker in the game, 130,000 nearly. Apart from the fact that he's got only one game in a double game week, I don't see it. I think hold on to him. It at least gives you another spot for move in Haaland next week or whatever. I really like the Everton away fixture. I feel like Spurs will have a little bit of buoyancy about them now that the whole Conte situation's gone, because there was a lot of cloud over that for a while. And the manager, is it Ryan Mason that's going to take over tomorrow?
Ryan Mason not getting him a few good results last time when he took over.
Kane, he's so consistent. I don't see it. Like, who are you bringing in for him instead? Really?
Nah.
Everybody's got a Watkins already, or Havertz or Tony. They've got good options. I just don't see. All those players we just mentioned, none of them are worth bringing in for Kane, Havertz or Felix.
I'm happy with Kane. I think he's staying. Yeah, so quick one, captaincy, who you're looking at. I know I'm pretty much set on Rashford, but I'm waiting to see what the returns will be. Is Maddison a shout? What are you thinking? Just quickly.
Not Maddison. For me, it is most likely going to be McAllister. Just really, I know Rashford is the standout option on form. There's obviously that flag. We'll see what happens with that tomorrow. Maddison, that you mentioned there, really, really tempted by him as well, just for a spicy pick. But I feel like McAllister's just been on such great form. I really like these two fixtures. Man United have got Brentford at home as well. So if we just imagine Brighton and Man United, it's the same fixture. I think McAllister's got as much chance of scoring as Rashford, and then I really like that Bournemouth one away. So I feel like this weekend there's going to be an array of captains. So it's just like we say most weeks, just kind of go your gut. And Maddison, just like you've touched on it anyway, that we were talking about the Roy Hodgson being back at Palace, Villa playing well. You think Villa are going to beat Leicester? I do think Maddison will score some points, but I feel like I want to put my eggs in the Brighton basket. So I would, if you don't want to captain Rashford, you want to go for a different pick, I'd be going for McAllister, Matoma, or March, one of the Brighton boys. it just feels right. I've not captained a Brighton player this week, in this little run, and this is the time. What are you thinking, Rashford?
Yeah, I'm nervous. I want to go Rashford, but I'm nervous that he might not play both games, and then it'll leave me a bit light. So possibly Matoma or Madison. I don't know. Like it depends. Probably one of those. And then my other decision is whether I take out Martinelli for somebody that might come in and do the job as well. So yeah, I think Rashford's a safe bet. That's probably who I'd go for. Possibly Matoma, and I also like Madison, even though I think they'll get beat in one of those games. I still think that he's got a great chance of returning and stuff. So yeah, we'll probably wait and see how that goes. But yeah, enjoyed that. Hope you guys did too. If you have any comments, questions, hit us up on Twitter or down below. And thanks for joining us.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the big, huge double game week bench boost galore. It'll be fun. Loads of tears will be shed, I'm sure. We'll see you next week.
Best of luck.